Okay. Call this meeting of the Groveland Conservation Commission to order on Wednesday, February 14th, 2024 at 7:01 PM. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I am Mike Dempsey, the chair. We have Annie, our agent, over here, and I'll ask our other members to introduce themselves.
Rich York.
Stephanie Bartelt.
Bill Formosi.
Terry Grimm.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have quite a bit of business here tonight, so we'll get right underway. Our first item on the agenda is a public hearing for 4 Federal Way, notice of intent. And I'll make a motion to open the hearing at 7:02 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay. So this is a notice of intent for the installation of 2 diesel generators behind the existing building, expand the gravel area, chain link fence, and a stone infiltration trench, all within the 100-foot buffer, which is jurisdictional.
Good evening. I'm John Riley from Hancock Associates. I'm here tonight with Dave Cowell, our senior wetland scientist. He is on Zoom. So just a brief overview of the project. We were here a couple months ago for the RDA, so I think you all know what's going on, but it is proposing to install 2 diesel generators on concrete pads that provide containment in place of the on-site generator. As part of the project, the fenced-in area behind the building will be expanded and a stone infiltration trench will be installed. We submitted to Mass DEP and Natural Heritage as there is a priority habitat on the property as well. Haven't heard anything back from that, but I don't think we're really expecting much comment. Couple items that were mentioned during the RDA discussion were switching the condenser pad and the generator that is located within the 100-foot buffer. And we looked at that and didn't really see a benefit because we would still be within the 100-foot buffer with the condenser pad. And operationally, it makes more sense to have the 2 generators located next to each other. And then the other item was, there was a question about the height of the curbing on the concrete pad, the containment. I swapped out the Arcadis plans that were in the submission package last time, so the correct plan is in there. It's a 12-inch curb around each of the pads, and they've been sized to provide total containment for each generator.
So according to the plan, one of the generators is outside of the 100-foot buffer and one is within it, right?
Correct, a portion of it, yep. And the closest point of what would be installed to the wetlands is the edge of the stone infiltration trench that would be along the fence. That's about 75 feet away from the wetlands.
So I'm not really familiar with this kind of project.
Mhm.
But I noticed a large volume of the diesel generators, 1,760 gallons and 876 gallons. And so a 12-inch curb will fully contain
So it's a 12-inch curb around, I think it's a 14 by 24 concrete pad. So they've been sized to fully contain the volume of the generator, and then if there were happen to be rainwater in there for whatever reason, that's been
Totally
factored in as
containing
well.
and deep. Is what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
And the generators are double walled, so they already have their own total containment, but as part of the planning board permitting, they wanted the additional backup of the concrete pad.
Okay, good, yeah. Because it's right in a delicate area.
Mm-hmm.
How often are they used? Are they constantly running, or are they?
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, I'm
I
just
think-
wondering, when they get filled, right? They
Right.
must have a truck that comes in and fills.
That's information I can get if that's something you guys want. I think the idea was to go to these diesel ones on all their sites. It's a Comcast site, and in the event of a natural gas issue has happened in the area a few years ago, they wouldn't be completely shut down and without power.
So as much as, I think all of us who have Comcast services here in Groveland would like to approve this, the problem that we've got is that our bylaw doesn't allow it because it's commercial in nature and there's not supposed to be any commercial work of any kind done within the 100-foot buffer. So my question is why are these here? Why can't they go somewhere else?
We originally proposed to keep them closer to where the existing generator is on the side of the building, and we ran into a zoning issue where we would need a variance to keep them there because of the side yard setback, they're considered structures. So we moved them to behind the building.
So there is means to get a variance on zoning, correct? Because we
In
have no
theory.
means to override our bylaw on this.
Interesting, okay.
So if somebody decided that it was easier to come to us than it was to go and get a zoning variance.
Well, do we make a motion to reject this plan then, if that's the case?
Yeah.
bylaw say exactly?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. David Cowell, Senior Wetland Scientist, Hancock. What does the bylaw prohibit? It prohibits commercial development within 100-foot buffer zone? I guess I need to understand the language and also why the Conservation Commission doesn't have authority to waive that as well. Why is that bound or fixed and not waiverable?
You have the language on that?
Sorry, I'm pulling up the language right now. Give me a second.
Thanks. All right, other points to make about this location is that it is manicured turf lawn in the existing addition. There's no need to remove any native vegetation. There's no real grading associated with this that would generate soils or topsoil that's going to be concrete slab on grade.
So under Article 2, Section 1C of our wetland protection bylaw, it notes number 3 notes commercial, institutional, industrial structures and associated parking facilities shall not be installed within 100 feet of any resource area described in another part of our bylaw.
Shall not.
Yeah, so that's,
I mean, our zoning bylaw also states you shall not put things within our setbacks. So it's not that, it's just our bylaw that does not, that has that shall not language. But, you know, one avenue forward that the planning board and zoning board, well, planning board more specifically, do in scenarios like this. And I'm not saying the commission needs to do this, but one avenue those boards I see use is they can provide waivers given adequate arguments from the applicant. Like, we're requesting a waiver because this is, we're requesting a waiver to put I'm trying to think of a planning example and not a conservation commission example, but, we're requesting to put in our in-law apartment separated from our house because the topology won't allow it otherwise, and we have a elderly in-law who needs extra support but doesn't want to be living in our house with us, So you shall not be separated, but given adequate arguments from the applicant, waivers can be granted.
So there needs to be pretty much a compelling reason. And I don't know if we've reached compelling yet.
I guess I would ask, do we have definitions in the front of our bylaws, just from where I work, when we have agreements, that is the toughest, that is the end. You don't go against shall.
Sure, so we do have definitions, but they are not specific in that nature. We have very few. We have a definition for alter, we have a definition for bank, a definition for person, a definition for rare species, and a definition for vernal pool.
Okay.
So, but generally, you would then fall back on Mass General Law in these scenarios, and shall is pretty, you shall.
Shall is it. I mean, that's.
More or less, but again, with my experience with planning and zoning, shall can be overcome given scenarios.
As our-
When was the bylaw enacted, and have you guys granted any waivers to date?
I am not sure when our bylaw was last updated.
it was updated maybe in 2004.
Yeah. But I would not know the last time. I don't know off the top of my head the last time
It
it was.
says it right on the front
Oh, no.
page.
His second question was the last time we granted a waiver.
If,
Oh.
If
We've
and
never-
when we have.
We've never granted a waiver on this.
Yeah, I don't know.
As members recall, we've been asked the same question just recently. We had that industrial commercial building on Salem Street, and we asked them to go back and look at their plans, and they were able to get out of the 100-foot buffer. We didn't grant. We have that other instance of over there at 166 Main Street, where they came in trying to put in an office building and a parking lot and drive-through in the 100-foot buffer, and we didn't allow it. So, we have no history of allowing this type of work by commercial or industrial use within the 100-foot. And I think it's a good thing because, industrial and commercial interests have more resources to be able to find another way to do something other than, say, a resident. And in this case, I'm disturbed that, we're being presented with this because the applicant doesn't want to go before zoning and get a variance. I mean, maybe there's other reasons why they're coming before us, but if that's the primary reason, then, so be it.
No, there's no malicious logistic planning on our part. We came to see you guys first. Yeah, we can go to zoning and ask them for a waiver.
Didn't understand him.
No,
He
I
said
don't-
they can go to
We
zoning,
don't,
but
we don't
there
have
is,
any
there is,
undermined intent here.
Yeah, our primary objective was not to avoid zoning, we just
Oh, okay.
No, not at all.
But you could go back to zoning now, right?
Yeah.
I guess,
Well, if we go to zoning and we're denied a waiver, would you guys consider a waiver? Is that not, if we're denied a waiver by zoning,
Well,
where does it put us?
to me, there's room, right? You have one outside. I don't think it precludes getting the other one outside. Obviously, it would probably mean some restructuring of your wiring and getting the power into the building, but I think it's doable.
do the commissioners want to go look at it?
Yeah, I mean, I keep looking at the satellite image on my, I haven't been there, so.
Or are we just saying it's impossible like this? I mean, by going to look at it, we might be able to say, look, if you could move it, to get certain parts of the structure out of the 100-foot buffer, and then go to zoning and see if they'll allow it with our objections to it, along with the fact that, I mean, it isn't just a structure, they're actually storing
Right. fuel.
Large
diesel
volume
fuel
diesel
within the buffer zone.
Next
So
to
this
very
is not,
delicate
some
habitat.
just simple thing. So, I mean, if zoning doesn't pay attention to that,
So I have a question here.
Yep.
Your
Yeah.
second
These
generator that.
generators they're not revolutionary, these are commonplace, and as we talked about, they not only have secondary containment, they have tertiary containment. So it has two safeguards that contain the entire volume of the tank twice over.
yes, but you still have a truck coming in,
Right.
delivering it, emptying it out when it needs to be replaced. So, you're dealing with diesel fuel in the 100-foot buffer.
So my question is your generator that does come into the 100-foot buffer zone, you're removing a generator on the side of the building? Is there a reason that you didn't want to put one of the generators in the existing spot?
That
That
was
was the
the
zoning.
the zoning issue, that's the side yard, they wouldn't go for that,
They wouldn't go with a direct replacement of the one that's currently there?
correct. And to be clear, the waiver is for just the generator, or if they were flipped with the condenser pad within the 100-foot, not the stone infiltration trench, that's not the issue.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Did I do that? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Did I do that?
So Mike,
Thank you, I appreciate
I'm
you.
still stuck on, it says shall,
Yeah.
and to me, that is the end-all.
Yeah, no, I
So,
understand.
And that area there is all flat, because we've been there before for other stuff.
Yeah,
It's- it-
priority habitat.
You know that also, the reasons why we don't, that we're very strict on this is because once it's allowed,
Right, and then
Then everybody
you
wants
set a
waiver.
precedent, and
Yes.
I would also point out that site grading behind the building and in that area all slopes towards the wetlands regardless of whether we're in the 100-foot buffer or not. So if we move them both outside the 100-foot buffer and take it out of your hands, it's still graded towards the wetlands.
Yeah, but it's just that much further away, so.
I move it.
Make an argument that a mile away is still sloping in that direction.
Right,
Further
but
you
we're
are away, the
talking
better.
10 or 15 feet, not a mile.
Where do you draw the line?
Can
I say
Can
we
I
kick
ask-
this back to zoning,
well, what we can do,
or kick
we
them
can
back to
do
zoning.
a few different things. We could go look at it, and that will be, till our next meeting. We can allow the applicant to decide what they want to do. We could deny it tonight, or we could just table it for tonight and ask the applicant to consider going before zoning and seeing what they say. So I guess those would be our three options.
I'd ask for you to continue the hearing.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
I just caution the board against denying it right off the bat, because if zoning does deny it and they have to come back, they would have to notice all the applicants again, and I think that's an undue cost to place on the applicant, because when we can easily just continue it,
Yep.
just, just something for the board to consider rather than flat out just denying it at the
Your
moment.
mercy is admirable.
I am also here to make sure the applicant can go through this process as easily as possible.
Sure.
But I think it really would be unjust to deny it right off the bat. Just something to consider. Also, I did look back through our records. We have something going on at 929 Salem Street, and we did allow parking structures in the 100-foot buffer for that commercial development.
929.
929, 931 Salem Street, the auto body shop over near the light department. Next to
but they
Pub
were-
97.
First of all, that was parking, and second of all, that was replacing a complete building that was in the 100-foot buffer with dealing with chemicals and auto parts and everything else. So it was actually a cleanup of the site. So it was really a different, totally different situation there.
But you've granted waivers.
So I would say we should continue, let them decide what they want to do, and then,
Can
Yeah.
we take a look at it in the meantime?
If you want to. Does everyone want to go take a look at it?
Not particularly.
What, no?
Well, not all of us have to go. If you're
By the
convinced
seven
that,
of us.
I
maybe
mean, I
eight.
like site visits, and if we're gonna continue it, I guess I'd like to know what I'm up against.
yeah, I think if we're continuing it anyway, it's
Or
not
up
going to
Looking at.
hurt to go look at it in the meantime,
Yep.
so. How about if we go take a look at it, what's today, the 14th? Next week sometime?
I am off on Monday and Friday.
Friday the 23rd,
Oh, wait, sorry, I am working Friday. I'm sorry.
Saturday?
Yes, I'm off Saturday. It just can't be from 11 to 1 when the movie's at the library.
No, it would be like 9 o'clock or
Okay,
something.
let's do that.
9 o'clock on Saturday, the 24th?
Okay.
Sure.
For Federal Way.
Can you have somebody there to explain, show us a little bit about exactly
I
where
think so, yeah.
things are at?
You said February 24th at 9 a.m.?
Yes. Okay, so I'll take a motion to continue the hearing to March 13th.
Motion to continue the hearing for 4 Federal Way until March, next meeting, March 13th.
Second.
All in favor of continuing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'll make a motion to close, I'll add to that motion, but a motion to close that hearing for now.
Second.
Should have included that in the original one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Next is a public meeting, not a hearing, for a Groveland RDA to remove trees at 10 Merrimack River Road.
Why does it feel like this is Groundhog Day?
Hi, good evening. I'm back again to request another permit to cut down trees in our backyard by the river. You and Michael were out last year. Started noticing they're all, the ash disease. Last year, we had to take down 3 because they were a danger. And between last springtime until recently, several larger ones have fallen down. So our next door neighbor, a couple of weeks ago, at 8 Merrimack River Road, had Steve Collins come out and did quite the job. I know you folks were out there. We're right next door. And I hate to say it, but Steve came out and walked the property with my wife and I Friday, and we marked off 20.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And they're actually worse than, until you get up there and start looking at them closely. But, and he's looking around, and you can see where trees have just snapped off, and that's an active area. I mean, I take care of the lawn down there, my wife's down there and stuff like that. So he counted them out, and the reason we're looking to do this now is I'd rather have control over it properly being cut down than having them come down in the middle of Memorial Day weekend on a neighbor's docks or boats, and they're well within reach. I mean, you've seen the height of those trees. So Stephen couldn't make it tonight with me, but do the presentation. We filed the permit. We're also looking to hopefully, because we're restricted, the property's sloped down. Ours is a little bit steeper, but it's also narrower, and he's taking up logs that are longer than 2 of the tables put together. So he's using, our neighbors next door, Paul's side there. So our game plan was, since Stephen can't bring them up that way, can't have a crane to reach over the house because the yard is too far off. So if we get, the permit accepted, then the last thing we have to do is talk to our neighbors next door and say, I'll pay for the landscaping, and that's the safest and best way to go up, especially since on our front lawn off to the side where they'd have to come up and over is our septic field.
Oh, right.
So
You're not making it easy, are you?
I asked that we would get a barge in there, but they have to have a maritime license to do that. So seriously, so that's it. So this is the next to the last step.
What are you going to replace them with?
I knew you would ask that because you asked that last year. We were going to replace them with some, my wife has the list that you folks gave us, but the damage or the diseased trees started coming down, so we figured we would wait until the trees are cut down. In fact, we had a group in there Monday cleaning out all the debris that's been washed up on the lower level there, so it's actually clean and it's less dangerous for them to be moving around, cutting the trees down and stuff. So, but we intend on replacing, I don't know what the list is. My wife is in charge of plants
Natives.
and shrubs, but yeah.
Okay.
And how's he planning on getting at them again?
Right now, there's only one way, is to go down our neighbors to our left, 8 Merrimack River Road, use the same path that they did on the side of the house between them and the Wicks property. It's a wider area, it's not as steep a grade, and it's just, it's already semi-chewed up a little bit. We're hoping, and the only way we would do it, I know there's a charge per day to do work on the lower level with machinery at this time of the year, or whatever time of the year, but we're prepared to pay that. but we need to have a freeze, and
Right.
it'd be nice to have a snowstorm and not rely on our weather forecasters, at any rate, so that's where we're at now.
It's supposed to be pretty cold the next few days, but Steve's booked till like
Oh, I know he is.
a year from now,
Yeah,
right?
he said he would do it, and he's more than willing. I know his, affiliation with you folks, but he said, he would speak to you folks, but that's what we would wait for, and he would do it if it's okay with our neighbors, that he would come down if we get a good solid freeze for a few days, which won't be next week. Having snow and ice would even be better. He can't really see the extent of the work, the residual aftermath after they, took 2 days to get a massive amount of wood out of there, so.
Yeah. And I want to clarify, there's no affiliation between us
Oh, no,
and
okay.
Steve. I just want to clarify that for the record. We appreciate, or at least I speak for myself and other people can chime in. I appreciate his
Expertise, yeah.
willingness to work with us and keep us informed about stuff in our jurisdiction.
I meant more as a referral basis.
Yeah.
Not a collaboration.
I just want to make it clear.
Yeah, but he walked through the entire property. There's probably about 40 trees down there, so he was naming off every one of them. And again, we debated it, my wife and I, since last year, especially noticing just in the middle of summertime, huge, 6, 7, 8-inch diameter limbs would just snap off and right down where we sit down there on the water. So, and the size of the trees, I just didn't want to see what happens with. I mean, we've had trees fall, with storms. I just want to be responsible for damaging, our neighbors and all their docks. It's set up like that, so they're well within reach of the trees coming down.
Well, and there's a pretty good argument to get it done. Like you said, when the ground is frozen, it doesn't
Yeah.
get dug up as much.
Yeah, I'm not sure if, it'll be after, luckily it's February, not March, so we'll see how it goes,
Next week's supposed to be really cold.
hopefully.
Did Steve say how many days he thinks the work will take?
I spoke to him a little while ago tonight. He's hoping maybe 2 days.
2 days.
2 days, it probably, I think, if everything somewhat goes according to schedule, might be 3 days. It's more than next door,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's a lot
it's,
more trees, right?
yeah.
And harder to get at.
Yeah, a little bit. We have, the berm, and it goes down about 6 or 7 feet down, to our so-called beach, the waterfront there. Unlike next door, where it's a little flatter and more level. So either way, it was a challenge. Although I watched them, they did an incredible job
Yeah,
dropping
he's
them.
really, really good.
So he thinks 2, possibly 3. Should we say up to 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case, and if it's
Yeah.
less, we don't charge.
Sure.
Yeah, no,
It's not like he can, or I want him to rush it. So.
Right.
You want to make a motion, Terry?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we grant this request with a 5-day, up to 5-day seasonal waiver with the associated fees.
Second.
Do we have,
You're waiting for me to second it, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
do we need a time frame, like between now and,
It's got the seasonal waiver.
Yeah.
After that, it doesn't matter.
Excuse me, can this be for 1 year, a permit? I mean, again, it depends on the weather now. If it cooperates, we'll get it done, but when does the permit expire?
That's a good question.
We
Well,
generally don't place expiration dates on these permits.
Yeah, it's just the only timing issue is the
weather.
seasonal waiver
Waiver,
stuff.
I'm not positive, but I really don't think we would attempt it to do it past, the ground being frozen. It would just,
Be a mess.
it'll cost more to do landscaping than to cut the trees down some. But
So, I think what we can do is, grant the permit with the seasonal restriction exceptions, and it will be up to you to notify us when they're going to do the work, and then notify us how many days. So I think that's fine, right, Annie?
That should cover it.
Sounds fair.
And are we replacing the trees one for one, I guess, or how does that work? Did we talk about that? These 20 trees on the riverbank.
Probably shouldn't have been 20. I mean, that probably was crowded.
Well, I mean, they probably grew up by themselves, who knows?
Those are, yeah, we didn't plant, those are
Yeah,
originals
big
there.
trees.
These are 140 to 50, 60-foot tall trees.
Yeah, so. like I
So-
said,
What are you proposing, Stephanie?
Well, I'm just wondering how to make sure we have appropriate tree replacement.
Yeah, so we know we want native, number one.
Do we need to specify anything besides that?
Well, we should specify the number and what, size, right?
And we've already done that for your earlier cutting?
Yes, but please keep in mind that if we were to hypothetically replace each tree that we cut down within a few yards of it, that is, it won't survive because the water's coming in 3-4 foot deep, and even at dead middle of the summer, August, it's still knee deep, well over where the trees would be placed. These are trees that are between myself and the wall. That's the wall's the river, the
Yeah.
waterfront. So I mean that comes up there and it would just wipe them out.
You don't need to replace them there.
Down below. I mean.
You can put them anywhere on your property.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And I think, didn't last time we talked about, it didn't have to be necessarily trees. It
Oh,
could
yeah.
also be
Yeah,
native
shrubberies,
shrubberies
certain
and
kinds
stuff
of
like that.
shrubs,
So
right.
Appropriate shrubs, yeah.
So you want to say 20 native trees or shrubs somewhere on the property?
Yes, let's say that.
And how about size?
I don't know what to specify for that.
Well,
Especially if it's a
we're not
shrub.
expecting them to plant,
redwoods.
huge trees. I would say,
Lock on this?
any size, tree saplings
Mhm.
or native.
You want 3 feet as a number?
Yeah.
3
yeah,
feet or larger?
Sounds good, yeah.
3 feet or larger, sure.
Okay,
I'm not positive we can fit 20 trees, replacement trees on the property where it is. It's not going to go over the berm, which they would never survive. So it would have to be back on the property.
do you want to have your wife, send us a plan of what she thinks she might want to do?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can do that. But we definitely will, want to put stuff in there just for, maintain erosion and
right,
Right.
exactly. That's my
and shade.
concern.
Although that's getting harder to come by now, but shade for sure.
Okay,
So, and
Yeah,
we've
so-
put in tons of
So-
trees already over the years.
So just send us a plan, and if it doesn't end up being exactly 20, whatever makes sense, and then I think Annie can approve it once we vote the article.
Will do.
All right, so we have a motion and second, right, on,
Correct.
When we're lacking in this particular part of the world.
Yeah.
any further discussion on the
They have a water
motion?
system, they love water.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
I would measure the Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blackberry bushes are good too.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of letting people give us a plan.
yeah,
We give them some guidelines, we give
Yeah.
them the list of what they could
Yeah.
do, and then let them, because it kind of makes sense that maybe they don't put them all right there in a line,
Yeah, that
but
would
they
just-
spread them around, as long as we're getting one tree for every one that's
Yes.
cut down.
Because that could be counterproductive to say you need to do exactly.
Exactly, especially if they were overcrowded, like you say, yeah.
Okay. All right. The next item is project update, so we can start early, I guess, on this one, right? We don't need to wait till 8, do
Looks like
we,
we had the
Annie?
people here from Lucille's, right?
It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's not a public hearing that we need to like hold
Yes.
to a certain, well,
So-
I don't know.
So, we are ready to hear on, from Alexander on the Lucille's Cottage presentation.
Annie, do you, in terms of sharing my screen, how do we?
I thought I had sent you the Zoom link that, remember I had mentioned you have to,
Yes.
I can send that to you now if you don't have it.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I also need access to Wi-Fi here. Is it just the Groveland Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Apologies for the delay.
So Mike, is this just informational or, okay, we just need to,
So I'll give you some background while
Yeah.
we're waiting on this. So, the commission received 2 grants, one in 2021 and the second in 2022 from Community Preservation Act grants from the town. And both of them were related to Lucille's Cottage up at Vesey Park. The building is a historic building. It's been there since the early 1900s and has been used for a number of different things, but kind of has fallen into disrepair and unuse because of that disrepair. It actually requires quite a bit of work to restore it to be able to use. So it really hasn't been used actively for quite a while. We did have a dog rescue group in one small room there. That's been about it. But it's not being used for anything right now. So the purpose of the grants were to look at how could the building be restored to be useful, and then what would it be used for once it was restored.
okay.
So, as part of that, grant, as part of the 2 grants, mostly guided along by Vanessa Lopez, our director at Vesey Park, has directed it with 2 consultants, one being Alexander, whose specialty is art, and also an architect working on it closely too. So Alexander's here tonight to give us an update on, actually it's the, probably should be more the presentation, because we've never seen this before, on those 2 grants and what's been done. And then we get to ask him some questions about it and also see what the future holds. So go ahead, Alexander, introduce yourself and take it away.
Should I go now? Hi, my name's Alexander Golub. I'm with Golub Art LLC. My studio is a public art and creative placemaking and creative placekeeping practice. Been working as chair Dempsey mentioned, with you all via a CPA grant, two CPA grants, I believe, and with Vanessa Lopez on exploring the possibilities for Lucille's Cottage. As was already described, it is in a dire state. A number of options for exploring how to make it a self-sustaining, revenue-neutral property that could also potentially even be a community benefit or a town benefit have been explored, for-profit, nonprofit, etc., and nothing had really stuck, is my understanding. And so they brought me in. I have experience working with large-scale real estate developers, municipal governments, from including the city of Providence, Rhode Island, for instance, is one of my larger clients. Not just both in terms of creating public art, but also in terms of exploring how to make artist studio spaces and doing arts initiatives, so from a business perspective as well. So just want to add that kind of nuance to the perspective that I take here. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to try to run through this relatively quickly so that there's time for questions. I imagine we're going to probably want to have more of a conversation about this. Though I'm just going to say, this is my Valentine's Day treat. So sharing the results of 2 years of work and effort. So I'm happy to be here as long as you need me. All right. So we're going to go down. So the key findings. This is the executive summary, so I think it'll be good to kind of orient ourselves here. Lucille's Cottage is about 2,500 square feet. This includes the basement. There is a large basement, two large basements, in fact. I'll explain that more later. But it is also a historic type of property. It is one of the first of a prefab type property built in 1927, I believe. So it has historic relevance. As I said already, if no action is taken, it's without substantial intervention. I think it'll be very challenging to make Lucille's Cottage remain, in which case it would likely, fall to disrepair even further, get knocked down, and because of the conservancy status of the property as a whole, nothing could be built there, and effectively the town would lose a potential community asset of a space. This project was informed by, at this point now, 2 years of community dialogue and conversations, engaging many community members in Groveland, but also arts members and members of the arts community in the broader region, as well as professionals and experts in real estate and in artist studio spaces. The assessments that I provide here were informed also by a very broad-ranging market study of what artist studio spaces are going for in not only the Merrimack Valley region, but also the broader greater Boston area, to really get a comprehensive view. And we take that in combination as well with a fairly conservative, in my opinion, fiscal approach to a pro forma, to the business plan for this potential property that really assumes the higher costs of construction, of capital costs and maintenance costs and operation costs, and assumes lower revenue than what might be in an ideal scenario. Again, those numbers are going to be informed by many conversations with experts in the arts, but also in broader nonprofit fundraising spaces. In addition to that, as part of my philosophy, my practice of consulting with communities, I not only try to create a paper report, but try to spur action or spur dialogue and conversation through my fact finding. So part of that involved these community conversations, but also an assessment of the management and the website. And this is a relevant thing even though it might not necessarily seem immediately relevant, it is a extremely relevant thing here because it offered access to substantial grants from the state and from foundations and community members. So the CPA grant and the work that I've done with community members here and with the town and the commission ended up resulting in $60,000+ in additional external grants for developing this project and arts elements at the site. The end result of, and we can go deeper into this, but the end result, the working vision for the space is a artist studio space / arts activation. So I would envision 10 small to medium studio spaces. The building itself, as I'll show you later, is a sort of E shape. So you would have some smaller stalls, some enclosed rooms. This is aligned with what we have heard from artists in terms of their desire. It also offers the flexibility and diversification of the potential uses of the space. There would be a central art showroom. There would be an integration with the natural components of the site. I think it's one of the biggest assets, one of the things that we heard made the site most unique. And aligned with, and then there would also be a flexible basement space. So the space, there are two basements, one on one wing and the other on the other. They're not connected. One we don't envision using much, but the other actually has a full door access to the outside. So I think that could be a really interesting flexible use space to be determined further down the road, depending on the exact nature of the artist's blend there. I think that my feeling is that after assessing a full town management of the site, a full for-profit management of the site, and a full and a non-profit partnership management of the site, I believe, and again, we can go further into this, that a nonprofit management is the ideal blend. This would probably be a partnership with the commission, the town, and then a nonprofit manager. It allows for a lot of flexibility in terms of staffing, and it allows obviously the wonderful partnership with the town and all of the resources and openness and transparency related to that, but it also allows for accessing substantial grant and fundraising dollars, which are key to adding additional revenue for this site. I also would say that there is again, this is a recommendation. I think that a next step would be issuing a request for proposals for potential partners on this type of project. Though it's my understanding there's another, I'm aware that there's another study being done right now for the entire park, so I understand there might be a waiting period to understand the entire scenario first. But I think that a request for proposals for nonprofit partners on this would be a strong start. And then there's also a potential pilot program, which we can also talk further, at Pingree Hall. Pingree Hall is the function space below the primary Great Hall in the main VZ building. It currently is not used substantially. It generates very little revenue, $4,000 to $6,000 a year, and requires a lot of use. It also actually, because of the heavy usage that those individual events, even though they don't generate a substantial amount of revenue, create, it actually deteriorates to a substantial degree the chairs and the tables that would be used for revenue generating weddings. All this is to say is that space is ripe for a temporary pilot, which could happen prior to doing any major program. And I can share more about that later, but it would be relatively easy to transform it into some temporary artist studio spaces as a one-year pilot that would generate revenue to further explore this, and then help to then hire a potential part-time staff person or consultant to do further fundraising for this type of project. The restoration and cost projections, as was shown by the architect's plans, is somewhere initially in the $600,000 figure. I have increased that based on a average inflation rate for when I believe this project might get started in a potential construction around 2027, 2028. So I assume that there's at least 750, around that 700, I think 50. We can go down there later, but around $750,000 of capital costs plus another $200,000 for programming, staffing, et cetera. I think that the total, I think the total capital costs, I believe I wrote down in the pro forma was in the realm of 900, around 900. I think that is possible to actually raise. I know it might seem like a daunting thing, but I think it could be, it's doable. And then the other thing I would just note is that the benefits are substantial. The potential benefits, I should say, are substantial. I'm sorry. The one other thing I should really note that makes the space unique, before I go into the benefits, is the fact that 2/3 of this would be artist studio space and an arts gathering space, and the other third would be a live-in artist in residency program. This would be a temporary artist in residency program. They range. This would be at the discretion of the management, and whether it's commission, nonprofit, the blend of them, whatever it is. But it would be typically they're in that 2-week, 3-week range. That's a standard that I've seen, but I've seen shorter, I've seen longer. These would be residencies that would either be free of charge for some and then paying for others. In my pro forma, I assumed a 50-50 split. And the residencies would be focused on bringing together nature and art. This is an extremely unique, I cannot emphasize how unique and special this type of program would be. It would be one of a small handful, maybe 6 or 7 in the entire country. It would make Groveland a major center for arts enrichment. It would offer really impressive, in my opinion, economic development opportunities for the town, and it would also offer great enrichment opportunities for the town as well. The other important thing to note is that the 10 artists, I have never seen more than 3 artists, or fewer than 3 artists come together and hang out in a space, and within a few months not put together events that attract people, bring people in, generate a wonderful, vibrant life for community members, but also generate economic development from people coming in, going to a fun art night, and then spending their dollars at a restaurant, gas station, whatever it is. This, in my opinion, for a relatively small space, for a town asset, it could be transformed into a jewel for Groveland. And obviously, VZ Park already is a jewel, but I mean, really, the crown jewel maybe on that. It would make it, but also make it so special, even more special within the Merrimack Valley region and the state, and even I think potentially the country. So if you'd like, I'm happy to go more in depth on different sections. But I wanted to give a brief, relatively brief overview on the whole project first.
As much as you can you tell us a little bit about what work needs to be done on the building?
Yes, I can. Let me take us to that section. Just while we're talking here, I just want to also show that this right here, if anybody's tuning in, or if you want a refresher on that E shape, this is right here, this image right here is Lucille's cottage. Has stunning views of the hill, over the hill. And this wing on the right would be where the artist in residency would be, and then on the long section would be where one of the artist spaces would be, and then these would, the wings would have artist studios as well. So for the architecture, it would have to be a pretty, and obviously the, Angelo, the architect, would probably speak better to this, so, take everything I say with an asterisk on it, but it's a pretty major overhaul, is what it would have to be. Everything from electrical, plumbing, exterior building envelope, so we'd have to redo overhangs, new windows. As beautiful as the windows are, they're just not up to energy efficiency standards. I think the roof would probably require pretty substantial work. In terms of plumbing, we have had someone review a septic, part of the septic. We are actually using part of the $35,000 grant that we received from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. That was a matching grant for some of the work for the CPA. To have further, my understanding is that we're having further site survey work done to really understand the full costs of the septic situation. And then it also a total retool of HVAC. I mean, it is a substantial amount of work at a very real cost. And then, but the hope is that through all that work, we'd be able to preserve the spirit of this property. And I should note that the architect, Angelo, is very experienced at, I don't know if I know with the elevator, but Angelo Petrozelli has a lot of experience with using a really graceful touch to rehabbing these historic properties, such as the one in Cogswell in Haverhill. So yeah, if that helps. And I can go into costs if you'd like as well.
No, but,
Get this old house to
yeah.
help out.
Tell us what the payback is after all this work was done. Briefly about the finances, about after the fact.
After the fact, yes, happy to. So I think, all right, so here it is. So I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. The original construction total was $713,000, and and as I shared, so the number that I used for the pro forma was closer to 1 million. I mean, it was over in between 900,000 and $1 million. I can't remember the exact number. It's further down, but I want to that recurring costs, right? So we have the construction of the studios, we have programming, we have insurance, utilities, staff, and maintenance. Now, when I show you the pro forma, the staff will probably be the largest recurring cost, but that is really based on a lot of assumptions of what I think might be a likely path forward. They do not have to be that way. And staff functions would include programs, site maintenance, development and fundraising, and then communications. And then, as I shared earlier, the funding sources for this would include studio space rental, artist and residency fees, event fees, private donors, the CPA Act, CPA, and that wouldn't be for maintenance. That wouldn't be for ongoing. That would just be for the capital to get this fixed up. Corporate sponsorships, state and federal grants, and foundation support. So, I want to answer your question, again, we're getting into the business plan of it all, the pro forma. So here is a potential program, so the studio program here. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. I mean, I believe you should have it there. It's page 43. But you'll see a potential program for it. These are priced for a 2028 launch. While there are the Pingree Hall Studios as well, which include a 2024 launch, at the end of 2024, it could also be later. This also assumes that, as I mentioned earlier, the artist in residency would be free or substantially, or sometimes free. It also includes a 3.5% increase every year to keep up with potential someday inflation. So that would generate some revenue in and of itself. And then I really envision here it is. I envision I just want to zoom in here so you can all see it while I speak. I envision the maintenance, the ongoing expenses to be pretty minimal from the town. My goal, my charge with working with you was to find a way to make this self-sustaining and basically not cost the town anything, if anything, generate money for the town, or at the very least community benefits. And so that's what I tried to do. This would rely substantially on the earned revenue from the studio spaces, which I think, you look after this green column here. So basically year 6, year 7, those types of years there. You see about 53,000 from studio rentals. You see maybe 30,000 from events, which is aligned with, I think what is starting to happen with events like Rubbish to Runway, which generated a substantial amount. And then a level of private donations and business sponsorships that again, they increase for an imagined capital campaign in years 3 and 4 and then decrease pretty substantially. And I know that is substantially maybe more than what is being brought in now, but from conversations with other arts nonprofit executive directors, with development folks across the state, from urban areas to pretty, out there ones. We're talking, well, maybe not so out there, but Medfield. You think of Concord, Maynard, all the way into Boston. These are more than reasonable numbers with a dedicated team, which this would account for. Because then if you look at the operating expenses, you have basically 2 full-time staff members at the bottom towards that operating expenses section. I want to also note that, if the fundraising or donations, whatever it is, do not come through, then it's just a matter of reducing staffing. It doesn't mean that the program wouldn't be able to work. And I've already accounted for repairs and maintenance, common area expenses, gaps from turnover. And these numbers are confirmed by real estate experts who I've consulted with insurance experts who I've consulted with. I tried to be really as thorough as I can for you.
Those part-time staff?
For which part?
The staff?
I envision it starting off as part-time staff and then moving into more full-time.
Because what kind of marketing do you get for $20,000 a year?
You get part-time staff, is what you get. Or you merge those two, right? You merge the 30 and the 20 into one role. I think my goal in this was, and I think this is true of how VZ Park is managed right now, is that there is some full-time and then there's also part-time staff. I think it's a pretty standard way for a nonprofit to ramp up operations, for these types of projects to ramp up operations, where they'll have someone working part-time, and then as the institution or the organization grows, as revenues grow, they would grow into a full-time position.
It looks like that CPA $500,000 is doing quite a bit of heavy lifting there.
It is. Yeah, that is. It absolutely is, and I'm not gonna try to hide that part. I think that if I could be so bold, the town has put in some pretty major investments in some other things, but this is the only one not the only one, but this is one of the few that will bring in revenue over and over again and will generate jobs. Like it'll generate a space for people to work And, maybe some of them are, hobbyist artists, but some of them are professional artists too. I don't know if you could say that about all the other CPA investments. And it maintains a historic property.
So Mike, you were on Concom in 1996 when the property became our possession.
Yes.
What's the conservation restriction on preventing from just raising the place and putting in a modern building?
It specifically says that if any of the structures are removed, they can't be replaced.
That's a shall, huh?
Yeah, I know. Yes, it's unfortunate because, this is
And
not
it's not
the
even a
only.
matter of building on the same footprint, like if you
Yeah.
took down
No, I know, that would
foundation.
that would seem to make sense, but that's not what it says, unfortunately. Because not only that, I mean, that building is probably the one that's in the worst situation, but, we are hard pressed to maintain the other buildings. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total buildings in the park, and the one that gets maintained and is in best shape is the main building. 2 of them are rented out as residences, and in both of those cases, barring some miracle, really, that they eventually may end up being non-rentable because they're hard to maintain, and we don't have a lot of money to put into those. And then there's Lucille's, and then there's the barn, which is another great building, but gets no maintenance. Right now, it needs a new roof, and we don't have the money. So as that water starts coming in, it's going to only make things worse there. So, I guess for the future, as Alexander mentioned, we have this study going on about whether part of the facility can be turned over to another group that maybe can generate more money than the commission alone can, and then pay us some money so we can repair some of the buildings. But, we don't know if there's anybody out there that wants to do it. But say that we are continuing to do this, I guess my biggest question for this project would be, what is it besides fixing that building, which I'm certainly for, what could it net us that we could use to keep maintaining the whole park?
Is that to me, or is that to your?
No, I'd say if you can throw in an answer for that. I mean,
Oh, sure.
What's the net, which is
Yeah.
a crappy question to ask, but
No.
really, that's what the bottom line is as
That's
far
a
as
great question.
finances.
I'm a big supporter of the arts, obviously. I'm an artist. This is the work that I do, but ultimately, I was brought here to, look at this problem. I will say my scope was Lucille's. It was not the broader park, so I'm not aware of the scope of the costs. I know they are substantial, but I just don't know the actual numbers. But I would imagine that, the plan here is self-sustaining and can generate some pretty substantial revenue. As I shared, this is in my opinion, and in the opinion of some people I've spoken to, a conservative number in terms of fundraising. If the town is able to say, we want this, right? It's all contingent on, outside people feeling that there is confidence in this type of project. But this will sustain itself, and it will generate additional revenue. So I don't know what the revenue picture is for the broader park, but this could generate revenue. It could increase the possible rates for what my understanding is the weddings. This could probably allow for increasing rates because it might become a more desirable property. More events could be hosted. I think that there's a lot of opportunities where you would partner with whatever organization would be also, if you were to go the route of a nonprofit, to help work this, where there would be a greater partnership to also help to rehabilitate slowly the rest of the park. I think that the important thing is that if you were to move forward with this, it would still need to be that the mission of this is the front and center. I don't know if it would be as successful if it's just meant to rehabilitate the buildings. I think my professional opinion is that you need a mission. You need a charge to compel people, to motivate people. And I think, from a community benefit standpoint, maintaining historic properties is a really great one. But pairing it with programming that people want to be at will, I think, help to generate the revenue that you're looking for. And I think this would help do that.
Yeah, so this is a big commitment on the commission's part. So we somehow are able to raise the funds and get the facility up and running as you propose. And it generates a lot of community benefits. It generates more interest in the facilities, the other facilities that we've got up there. Those are all what we already tried to do. We already have a significant amount of community activities going on that we don't charge for, or we charge very little for, in order to get interest in the facility. Most of our income comes from either, besides a small amount of donations, our income comes from either the residences that we rent or the event rentals that we have there. So this would be an added piece. Again, it would add to, attention to the matter and hopefully be successful in and of itself. But I think what the commission needs to know is how much can we generate up and beyond that financially to add towards our general income for the entire facility.
I think it's even worse than that.
Yeah, it
This
could
doesn't
be.
look the least bit sustainable.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
but-
unless you've got, there's a, $200,000 state federal grants, $100,000 state federal grants, but, 60, rolling revenue of 60,000 in rent is nothing. And and I'm looking at these studios, medium studio, 45 square feet, right?
Yeah.
7 feet by 7 feet.
I did a market analysis of the Merrimack Valley region. I mean, it's on an earlier page. I want to stay on this, but there is an earlier page with the market analysis of the studio rates. I think it would be a extremely doable rate. I am not concerned about the rate at all. I'm extremely confident in.
Who would come all the way to Groveland to work in a 7 by 7 foot?
In a beautiful 48-acre property, a lot of people, and in fact, there are already. Truly, every studio that I called, every studio manager I spoke to, told me the one thing that they know is a constant is that there is never a opening. They have wait lists months long. It is a fact.
And why are the rents so low?
Because they're managed by people who want to try to make them more affordable for artists, but not all of them are so low. And you'll see. If you look at the list, some of them are higher. And I think this would kind of be in that not, it wouldn't even, I don't think, be the highest in the pack by 2028 if that's when it would be done. I will say that I think, I think that, I don't think that actually I'll say, the reason that I recommend a nonprofit management structure is because it unlocks funds that would not be available to a for-profit management of this site if it were studios. I agree that 55, just relying on the studio rental alone, would not, it might be sufficient potentially actually to keep maintenance of the property. It's not a large property. $50,000 a year is I think is enough for the capital expenses for maintenance.
But you're paying off basically the cost of a $900,000 building. Yeah,
Well,
that's
you've already
essentially a mortgage.
you've already gotten that capital. You're not using that money the construction would not begin until the capital is raised. So there would have to be a very large, this is why it would be in 2028. It would be a substantial capital fundraising campaign. And I'll note that those state federal grants that I mentioned, there are several hundreds of thousands. The one that I'm referring to with the 200,000 one in particular is the Massachusetts Cultural Council Facilities Grant. It is a popular grant that has been around for, I think, over a decade now. Maybe before even, I think from the Duvall administration, I think potentially, all the way through Baker, now the Healy. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And this is with conversations with many arts experts, many nonprofit people, folks, that this is a grant that I think would be reasonable for this type of project to expect within maybe 3 application cycles. So applying a few times and modifying it. I think for context, we received the maximum dollar amount that is possible for the study grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, the $35,000. It's the maximum allowable that they'll do. We went for it, and we were given the full amount, and that was after we had tried the year prior. So that number, for instance, is related to that. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars in foundation support and business sponsorship supports that happen all the time, and I've identified some of the foundations in an earlier section. I think that the $50,000 number is also reasonable. No construction would start until we have the full capital amount available, and then the the revenue that you see from year 5 onwards is solely for maintenance and programming, and I think that's a very doable amount, frankly. I think that the Rubbish to Runway show alone raised, I think, $15,000 on its first go, with no dedicated organizer, no paid staff member focusing solely on that.
And where was that?
That was at VZ Park.
At VZ.
At VZ, yeah. Yeah, so I think I'm pretty confident that with even a part-time staff person, the revenue numbers would jump substantially.
So just to be clear, so what you're saying is, once the facility is up and running, it's going to throw off approximately $50,000 a year net when all other expenses are paid. Is that true, or is it $50,000 less?
So here, does this have a blinker on it? No. Or a laser on it? Oh, yeah. Maybe I can just point them out, right? Do we have to listen to me? Is that why I have to stand here?
Yeah.
You can use her
Well, we
mic.
can hear you, and there's another.
Use her mic.
I can? Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you for that. We have the technology, folks. So this is what I think, oh, thank you so much. Well, yeah. This is what I have. Yeah. this is what I have as the gross revenue. This is just for the year. I think this is like year. I actually think it's year 9 or 10, or 8. Year 8. And then, we can look at the net. I mean, you got to remember, this number includes 2 full-time staff. It includes a maintenance of $7,500 a year, right? Includes grounds and landscaping, includes common area expenses, turnover expenses, which turnover expenses meaning just the loss of revenue from when there's not when a studio is not occupied, and insurance. As I shared, I think you could probably get away with fewer staff, maybe just 1 full-time staff member. I think it'd be better if you had more. But even with all of that, you have net year after year, or buffer room. If you're looking to use this to extract value, like monetary support for things beyond Lucille's, which it sounds like, is that what you're getting at? I mean,
Everything we do is that way.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it has to be a blend. I don't.
Well, that's okay. I mean, look,
But I think it generates substantial revenue beyond its maintenance. I mean, I think that's the takeaway, and I think that what you do with that is up to you.
I mean, we talked about even opening a cafe. It would be such a nice place for a little cafe, have a little coffee.
That was brought up.
And then, like the kitchen, we talked about having it be one of those kitchens where people can go in and,
Yeah.
I forget what that's called, but anyway. Yeah, yes, along those lines.
so I'm still not getting the answer I want.
And I'm still having trouble getting past this 50 square foot. You've got a couple in the studio survey, you've got a couple that are on that scale,
Yeah.
the
we do.
Foundry and Artisan Asylum, and they're in Boston and Cambridge, where real estate is ridiculous.
Sure.
Expecting people to come to Groveland, even if it's beautiful, it's to work in a 7 by 7 foot space is just crazy.
Well, I mean.
No offense.
No, none taken. I mean, 1 second. Let's pull up those. I mean, if we.
Bigger, charge more.
Yeah, because they
would charge. I mean, we're talking. They charge like.
Artisan Asylum,
triple what we're talking about. We're not-
$7 a square foot.
Yeah, we're not talking about $7 though. Like that's not what I'm proposing for this
I understand that,
site.
but
At all.
I think you'd be better off charging more and having bigger spaces. But that's a detail. That's a detail.
Yeah,
But that just means there's fewer spaces.
Well,
I think you have to have a diverse size, because somebody who's painting just needs a window and a place for their easel and paint. So I don't think it's crazy.
and the benefit they're also getting is a community, right? I mean, what a lot of artists seek is having peers that they can work alongside. I understand your skepticism, and I think it's One second, I just want to make sure I get rid of these notations. No, I didn't. That's great. But I understand your skepticism, and it's fair. I think that when I speak to people who are not familiar with artist studio spaces, I hear that often. But when you talk to people who manage artist studio spaces, and when you talk to artists and what they're willing to pay, it's eye-opening. I mean, they really are willing to do it because it's a benefit. They get a lot out of it. And the total dollar amount, I will note, is not so substantial, right? We're not talking about 1,000 square feet at that rate. We're talking about monthly, cost of, what is it? I can't remember the exact dollar amount, I don't want to say out of turn.
Well, it's like 160, 100, and
Yeah,
The
they get access, I mean, you
highest
know,
one you
people
have
pay,
is 275
yeah.
for a large studio.
But artist studios aren't meant to be super profitable because artists don't typically have that much money, so we
Well, and
try to
even
make it
that's-
affordable.
You'd be surprised, actually. I gotta admit, you'd be surprised. I mean, again, I know that there's a lot of ideas about who an artist is, who would be the one renting, what type of person would do this. But the market, and again, what I think does not matter in this situation. What any of us might think doesn't necessarily matter. What I did is I looked at what people out in the world are doing, and I'm giving you what people are willing to pay. I'm not trying to make a value judgment on that, and I don't think it'd be wise from a financial fiduciary responsibility perspective, to let our vision of who an artist is, what an artist is, change what the market is telling us, which is that people are willing to pay that, and that those are viable, financially feasible spaces. I think that'd be my kind of, that's what that would be my argument for that. Can you remind me, I'm so sorry, can you remind me your question, Chair Dempsey?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So, we rent out 3 residences on the property. That generates a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
We're we're providing housing in a town where it has very little rental housing, right? So we generate a lot of goodwill with the people that live there. They pay a little lower rent. So an example is we have one cottage that's rented. The annual rent is about $12,000, say, and to keep that place going and somebody moves out, moves back in, you end up spending $15,000 to rehabilitate the place and make it rentable after they move out. Hopefully that only happens once every 3 to 5 years, but so the net to that is, so we're taking in $12,000, but
Yeah.
we got to set aside $5,000 of that a year to cover the rehab costs. So
Yeah.
our net on it is the difference, which is $7,000. So we take that $7,000 and we use that on things that don't generate any revenue. So that's what I'm looking at for this.
Got it.
If it generated, if you were able to have the entire program, it was all paid for, it generated a lot of goodwill, generated a lot of business in Groveland, great. It would have to do that. But also,
Yeah.
if after all the expenses were paid, we were netting, say, $5,000 to $15,000 a year that we could use for other things at the park that don't generate revenue,
Yeah.
it would be great.
And I think
so
you
that's
would
what
find
we're
that.
looking for.
Oh, okay. The answer is yes, it would. The answer is, and again, I want to reiterate that these projections, in my opinion, everyone I spoke to from all these different backgrounds confirmed is that this is a fiscally conservative projection when it comes to the costs, and so higher costs on the higher range of the spectrum, and then lower in terms of the revenue, both rental but also in terms of fundraising. With all of that, and with after the completion of this project, I mean in the sense that once it's built out and rented out, you would even still have 2 staff members focused solely on arts programming and management and all of that, and development, so maintaining that revenue generation, right, from donations and sponsorships. With all of that, you would still net $10,000, $15,000, depends on the year, but there would be a net. As I said, you could bring the staffing down. Maybe there's a year where maintenance is not substantial. Presumably for a newer building, I mean, obviously there's settling costs related to new buildings. So in the first year, maybe there's a bit more expense, but then year 2, 3, 4, it's a little lighter. That's also potentially lower. I think that there's absolutely net for the rest of the property, just from this alone, not including any potential external benefit, goodwill, et cetera. So just from a dollars and cents net.
So, in the interest of time also, we're presented with a study that there's been significant work done. We're not going to solve anything tonight or understand it all. But the other thing to think about is, then what's the alternative? And that's just let the building fall.
Yes, right.
So, I think this is great to be able to have this. The other, problem is, we're not going to get multiple studies on other options and things like that. So
Yeah.
this is what we have to work with, I guess, and it's pretty comprehensive. It just becomes, how committed then are we going to be? And, if we think about this correctly, and one of the things to think about is having all that money ready to go before we, launch off on this and make some decisions about staffing and things like that. So, I mean, this is, I don't know much about the artist community, but what I have seen is there's always people that want to work on their art, and they need a place to do it. They're either in their own basement or, converted a room in their house, but if you give them an artist community, they'll jump at it.
And I also note that, this is a plan, this came after, my understanding is that there were attempts to find other ways of making this work. So it's not, you don't have an alternate study, but you do have alternate
right.
experiences
Yeah.
already. And this, again, I can't speak for the entire park, but I can tell you with confidence that this is a way of saving Lucille's Cottage and generating a community benefit that doesn't exist at the present moment, and generating net for the rest of the property. I can't speak beyond my scope,
And I
but
think-
but at least it fixes. It could fix what it set out to do.
Right, no, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this, and the thought
absolutely.
that's gone into it. I dread the alternative. I mean, that's just.
I should say, there's a timer here. I mean, this isn't like you could. I mean, I'm not the one making the decision here, but or any decisions. We're not making any decisions right now, but.
But we have to think about the commitment, and I joked, get this old house to do, I mean, that's the kind of thing that they would
Yeah, we need some
love to
magic.
do, and
Yeah.
talk about advertising, but again, this is a number of years away, so we need to think about it.
Yeah, so, I think, just in closing this up is, certainly, we appreciate everything that Alexander's done. I think the plan is good. We may question some of the conclusions there, but ultimately, we have a plan. Now, it's up to the commissioners to think about this and say, well, what do we want to do about it? Do we want to jump right on it? We're all going to volunteer to be on the fundraising committee? Or, do we want to find somebody else to do that? Or do we want to consider how this plan fits in with some of the other work that's going to be presented to us in the next month or two? So,
And if I could just add,
Sure.
there is also the conversation around Pingree Hall, which I don't think it's necessarily ready quite yet, but part of the thought process here is that Pingree Hall, obviously there's the other study being done right now, and you wouldn't want to commit to anything necessarily. I can understand not wanting to commit to anything before that other study is in, but Pingree Hall offers an opportunity for a fairly quick build. There does have to be some flooding remediation, but with the Massachusetts Cultural Council grant, we're going to be studying. The idea would be to hire a professional to do a quick study on that. I think it would be realistic, frankly, to do the remediation and put some temporary walls, some, 8-foot walls, whatever it is, in that space, and rent it out for artist studio spaces with a, and again, it would generate some revenue. It would generate more revenue than that space is already generating for the town, for the property. And
Just in kind of like a pilot
Yeah.
program?
yeah, and it would
Just
be.
to float it, see what
Mhm.
happens?
And this would be, I think the benefit of it is that it would be extremely low risk, right? I mean, you're talking about putting up some quick walls, not a lot of work, and it would generate, again, we'd get a sense of whether it would be successful or not, whether there's interest or not. And it would, hopefully generate some revenue to also support, working with either a nonprofit or a contractor or whatever it is, who might be excited about doing some of that extra legwork related to Lucille's development, building those fundraising relationships. My thought, if where I'm sure you're noticing, I tend to move towards a partnership model where the town would partner with a nonprofit or to offer additional access to fundraising dollars. But yeah, I think you could do it, and then you'd say, hey, listen, this is a 1-year thing. Maybe we extend it, maybe we don't. It's dependent, but why don't you be part of this exciting experiment and see how it goes?
Well,
Not for now, obviously, but I just
No,
wanted to
but-
kind of preempt that.
Unfortunately, we were going down that path. That money that was received, we thought it could be used to do the physical work on the building, to take care of the water problems and building it out, and it can't be used for that.
Right.
So now, I've been working with Vanessa to find some kind of solution. The Friends of VZ are looking into maybe trying to take care of the water infiltration problem, but we have a theater company that's interested in
What?
renting out that whole space.
What?
Yeah,
That is so cool.
we might be able to, and they're not too worried about the water as much as individual artists would be. So
Okay.
Yeah.
we've got some things that we're going to pursue on that, so that's good news.
But I will say, the Massachusetts Cultural Council grant, that one does allow for studies. So I do think that we can hire, one of the uses that we were thinking for it was to incorporate, to hire a professional to really do a clear study of the flooding in that space.
Yeah,
so-
we're pursuing that with Angelo.
That's right. And then the idea is that, there's already been a handful of quotes potentially of how much all of that would cost. It could be that plus the drywall, putting up, not the drywall, but the temporary walls, could be the remediation and the temporary walls combined. The cost could be anywhere between, really broad range. I mean, talking like $6,000 to $35,000. But even at the highest range, I really, frankly, do not think that is a huge hurdle if there was like a clear capital campaign. Without a clear capital campaign, the Friends, through Rubbish to Runway and some other things, already raised more than half that, right? I think with a pretty clear capital campaign, it would be a pretty reasonable lift. But again, this is for future, but I just wanted to kind of make you aware that this might be a step forward without a substantial commitment from the town. So you kind of see how things are, see if there is an interest, right? I think it allows for an easy on-ramp, a soft on-ramp.
Yep.
So,
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Try and stop me, right? So there's a group in Amesbury, which is a similar demographic. We're closer to Amesbury than we are to Arlington or Medford or Boston or any of those.
Yep.
They are for-profit.
yeah.
They are 62 units, 65 units,
They're huge.
very,
That new mill building?
New and old.
That's, right, but that's like a,
Sorry, I didn't.
but But it might be interesting, since they're for-profit, they have some of the same motivations that you and I have,
Yep.
and many other board members, commission members. It might be useful to have them come in and have a look at the site and tell us what they think from their perspective. If they've got a wait list, then they probably would love to be able to, partner with us and take advantage of that wait list.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
And so I'm going to turn that over to you.
Well, I just want to provide some information on that. That would be, her last name right now, her name is Barbara. She's fantastic. She's been doing this for a number of years now. She had an old mill building, and then she bought another one with her, I think her children. Awesome space. She was one of the close people we consulted on this project. She's visited the site several times.
She's been to,
We've actually walked her inside of it. Walked her inside of Lucille.
I feel like I've been set up.
No, but you know what? I think it's
Wait a second.
Wait a second. No, I think it's hopefully a testament to show that we're thorough. But I think that's totally right. I mean, in the sense that we wanted to get people who are doing this in the area looking at
The
it.
Boston experience means nothing to us.
I hear that. I mean,
It's not relevant.
Totally. Wait. I did separate it. I mean, I did provide a breakdown from the closer ones in the region versus here. So I totally hear that. I think it's still like a helpful way to orient us in the conversation. The thing to note, so they have both them and Creative Haverhill, which have the Cogswell space, have shared that they have very long waiting lists. They get calls every month, cold calls out of nowhere, people looking for studio spaces, and they add them to the list. They've told us, they've committed to us that even if we do the Pingree space, that they will help us help the town find identify artists, and they say we'll create a pipeline right for you. So they have people who are ready and excited about it. And there are also the people who, in particular, who actually reviewed this report before I shared it with you all. I wanted to make sure that it was fully vetted. And they felt that this reflected a pretty accurate, assessment. So just wanted, but I think bringing more people is always a good thing.
Well, I want to just, again, thank you. I want to close this out because we've got to finish up some other items, but thank you for coming. You and I and Rebecca have spent a lot of time viewing a lot of this and distilling it down, so I certainly appreciate your presentation tonight and answering questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know. Thank you for the opportunity working. It's been a real delight working with town, community members, with you, and I also really appreciate your hard questions. I mean, from when I sent the initial draft to when I got those comments back, I think it expanded the word count by 30%. And it was but it was good. I think I know I can push back, but I actually really do. I hear it and I try to incorporate it. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so we're on number 4, Annie.
All right. So number 4, close out 181 R School Street escrow account. That was monies being held for an environmental consultant to review an ORAD from, I think, over 5 years ago now. They had done a proposed friendly 40B there. And so we're just still holding money from that. I mean, the project's closed out from this point. It's just been sitting in an account. So I want to make sure we get it back to its rightful owner. So I just need a motion from the commission to provide to the accountant and the treasurer to approve releasing the funds back to the owner.
So moved.
You have to say it, though. I can't.
No, I don't, but.
I can't.
Move to release those funds to the appropriate recipient.
Yeah, for
Second.
181R School Street.
So moved.
There was-
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
Any other further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is, tell us a little bit about the next one, the ditch maintenance project.
Yes, so in your meeting packet, you have a letter from, his name's Steve, sorry, I'm struggling. Steve, his last name is difficult I'm not gonna try.
Steve P.
Yes, thank you. He is with the Northeast Massachusetts Mosquito Control and Wetland Management District. And essentially, they're going to be doing a project over near the highway garage entrance. There is a culvert there that runs under the street. It gets clogged often, and one of the issues for that is the water's having a hard time traveling on the highway yard side of things. They had put in a ditch, I assume it was mosquito control, a really long time ago to help the water run there. It has since become overgrown, so they will be doing maintenance work. So this is just the commission's notification. We have 30 days to respond if we have any comments. That's Friday, based on when I got this letter, and as far as timing, as you know, when our meetings are and whatnot. So if anyone has any comments, please let me know as soon as possible. They are exempt from filing orders of, a notice of intent, so this is kind of our only chance to weigh in. I did go out to the site with Steve to talk through it. Ronnie's been working with him very closely on this as well. They would wait until the ground is completely solid, hopefully with at least a foot of snow. I know. A foot of snow on the ground to do kind of as little damage as possible. This
Where-
project, sorry.
Where exactly is it?
So, there's a map provided on the second page.
On the other side of the
Yeah, thank
Rennie's
you.
letter.
It's a my map.
even figure out
You can
where-
see where the, where it says 181R School Street is where the ditch used to be. So,
This is coincidentally,
Oh, that's one of
these
our
two
center.
things are
Center,
not
yeah.
related at all.
what?
Wait,
that-
one is center and one is school.
Yeah, this is center.
Well, one is 181,
Oh.
one's
It
180.
says 181R School Street.
Wait, really?
Yes,
That is funny.
so it's 181R Center Street.
Something was on the back of the
Oh,
page
I
that
understand, on the agenda.
Yes.
That's my fault, I apologize. It's supposed to be, what is it supposed to be? It's hard to keep it all straight, if I'm honest, sometimes.
Anyway,
Yes, anyway.
So it's on Center
It's
Street.
certainly, it's 180R Center Street, not
180R
181R
Center.
School Street.
Oh,
It's the Blue Stable Horse Farm, or
Yeah.
Blue Ribbon Horse Farm.
Yep.
Whoa, sorry,
Standard.
thank you, I'll never, yikes, okay, sorry about that. So anyway, if you go into the highway garage, it's basically to the right. Sorry about that,
Yes,
folks.
yes. That's better.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, so you mean
So you know where
that
Bill
water
Daly?
that runs through?
Correct. You know where we went out last year where Bill Daly did the stream crossing for the new
Yes,
sewer line?
yes.
So it's that same
Okay.
body of water, but further up, further south, if that helps. So this is just notification. Like I said, I went out there. He said that because of, you know, it's kind of weather dependent, this project might not happen for 4 or 5 years, but this is their, you know, it's now officially on their docket to be done.
So this is what the mosquito control
I don't
group does?
understand this letter.
Partly, they do a lot of other stuff too, but yeah, this is part of it.
I always wondered what they did,
They
okay.
do spraying, catch basin. They drop little tablets in there to kill West Nile virus because catch basins are a big source of that, apparently. Yeah. So if anyone has any comments, let me know now or let me know by the end of the day or middle of the day tomorrow so I can get them out to
Can we go
them.
take a look at it?
If you want, we can.
I guess you said it's under snow, never mind.
Well, no, that when they would do the work, it would be under snow.
Oh,
But if we want to go out, we can. I
like,
mean,
do we have to worry about, I know they don't have to file, but do we have to worry about habitat?
they're pretty exempt from everything.
Like, we have some pretty rare species in that area, right?
Yes, I will note the
I don't think that's within,
turtle habitat. I'm not sure, but I will say Steve used to be the conservation agent in Georgetown for over or almost 20 years, so he's very aware of what
No,
our
I guess that would
regulations
be my
are.
only concern if they're working in that area.
Yeah, I can double check to see if they're within turtle habitat.
If you're asking for commentary.
Mass mapper. Anyway, but yeah, so that's, I can take a quick look. And then Stephanie, if you want to go out, we can go out together.
Friday? No,
I
you're
don't
off
work
Friday.
Fridays.
Monday or Tuesday, I'm around. No, but when do you need the commentary by?
Friday.
This Friday. So
I guess I'll be on my
tomorrow's the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Tomorrow is
Go
it.
check it out tomorrow.
so,
You have flashlights, we can do it tonight.
I have to go to Boston for a hot minute tomorrow, but I can, what time are you here till tomorrow, Annie?
I'll be here late tomorrow because I will be here for the
CPC.
CPC meeting.
So maybe I'll just give you a buzz when I'm on my way back from Boston.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You have my number.
Can't really walk in there. All you can do is,
You can walk in from the highway yard. So I would meet you where the highway yard entrance is. You can park right in front of the salt shed,
Okay,
and we can walk in that way.
I'm gonna put it on my calendar.
Yeah, just shoot me a text and we can coordinate it.
yeah, just find out about the habitat.
It is within habitat, so I'll touch base with Steve to see if they're exempt from that. I think part of the reason they want to work in the winter, like Bill did, is because that's outside of the turtle habitat timeline. Because remember last year, or I don't know when he
Yes.
did it anymore, he did it in the winter because of the turtles.
Yes.
So this is an annual thing that they, I mean, this,
No.
No,
Oh, according to this letter,
oh, what did you, I thought you said he did it last year.
oh, no, we were
no,
talking
Bill
about,
cut
Different,
through
that
the,
was
a
the sewer
different,
project.
that went through last year, I'm
there was all
sorry.
kinds of turtle
There's a
discussion.
lot of turtle, and also the rail to trail thingy, that was a lot of turtle
Correct,
stuff.
correct, yep. And yeah, I double checked, and it is within habitat, so,
But same precautions, right?
correct, yeah. Yeah. That's all I have.
All right.
All set?
It's not gonna get,
Any other questions on that one?
no.
180R.
Okay, number 6. So, we put in a proposal. I'm not going to go into it too much because I could sit here and talk for about 15 minutes on this. But just very briefly, we put in a CPA proposal for 2024 that relates to purchasing a property, about 17 acres on Center Street, that is former Superfund, part of the former Superfund site of Valley Screw Cleanup. And it's proceeding. The likelihood of this being successful is slim because the property seller has put it on the open market. They're not setting a price on it. They're just looking for proposals. And we're putting a proposal in, but we're not really, we have a lot of stipulations, one of which is the selectmen want to make sure that there's no other hazardous situation on the property, and they want the seller to do a 21E on it. So it's unlikely that this is going to move forward, but I just wanted to let the commission know about it.
How
If-
much?
There's no price on it right now.
Wait, how much are you requesting?
I don't want to say because it's an open.
It was an executive session meeting to talk about it.
Didn't know that.
Yes, so at the next meeting, I will know a little bit more about what's happened between now and then. No decision will be made by the seller till March 28th or thereabouts, so the timing is really not very good, so we're proceeding, but I don't really know how likely. It's getting less and less likely that we are actually going to be able to buy it. Number 7 is about changing our bylaw to allow alternate members. And Annie, tell us a little bit about what we need to do that.
Sure. So, where to start? So, to make a long story short, a lot of different boards and that we have throughout town have specifications in our bylaws as to, how many members there are, the cycles of their appointments, 5 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, alternate members and things of that nature. The Conservation Commission in Groveland does not have one within our local bylaw. We fall back on to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, which notes very broadly that you can have between 3 and 7 conservation members, and so we just fall back on that. And we had interest from a very qualified candidate in joining the commission, and there aren't any openings at the moment, but I thought it would be a great opportunity to appoint an associate and doing more research into it when we don't have that position. Specifically spelt out in our bylaws, we're not allowed to do it. And I thought that was kind of a real disservice to the town. So reaching out to the MACC, I asked them about it and their advice, and because associate members by MGL are not allowed to vote, it would be a non-voting associate member position, is what I've drafted up for the commission's review. So, and the purpose of it is to have a member of the commission be there in in a advisory capacity, as well as like a quasi-training role. So if, Mike has decided 26 years or whatever it is enough, we would have someone kind of waiting in the wings to take over. They'll be familiar with the projects going on, familiar with how the commission works, et cetera, et cetera. So just to finish out my talking, to move this forward, we would need to get this on the warrant for town meeting, and town meeting would need to vote on it. So the commission would have to, if they want to, make a motion to recommend the warrant for the upcoming town meeting warrant articles. It's kind of just a procedural thing to make a favorable recommendation. It's kind of just like the language that's typically used. Yes, that's my spiel. And I would like, warrant's closing soon, so if we can get this done in one meeting, that would be great. Sorry.
Oh, so you would type it up for us if we just,
It's already in there.
so just motion to move favorable on a alternate member warrant article as written?
Second.
Yes, okay, so discussion on the matter. I would like to see us say up to 3 associate members.
Sure, I don't care.
What do we think about that? I don't think we should limit it to one. Why not?
You're not happy with the one that actually stepped forward?
No, you're not greedy, Mike.
Artist studios, there's
Yeah,
usually a
one
big
person.
wait list for people trying to get on the commission.
Well, I think we're not getting any younger here, so,
Oh, a mass
yourself.
resignation.
no,
No, I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, agreed.
Why,
There's no downside to that.
right.
And again, just to emphasize, they wouldn't be able to vote and they wouldn't count towards a quorum.
But it would be amazing advisory
Exactly.
possibilities.
So up to 3, just instead of,
instead of
can
one.
recommend the select board appoint Up, okay. Up.
And they're supposed to bring snacks, right? Isn't that part of the deal?
Oh, and who's going to, and Mike, do you get to explain this
No
at town
comment.
meeting?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Why not? They'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's already going to be
I'll be
Mr. Popular that
Cut
night.
off, you know, after I get into it for 1
If
minute.
someone votes to allow me, a lowly non-resident, to speak, I would certainly stand up and speak to
Oh,
this.
I like that idea.
Motion to allow Annie Schindler.
You have to do it at
Conservation
town
Agent.
meeting,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. I'm always the one sitting in the corner with a non-resident sticker on because
You can move the Groveland.
Yeah, good idea. No, I love
I
Beverly.
just
Stay there.
moved to Beverly. I'm good there.
Make it as simple as possible.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wow, this is so
Unanimous.
awesome. So now you're going to come to all the meetings?
Okay,
After this?
I'm excited. Really, this is a long one.
two, we have minutes from July 12th and August 9th, 2023 minutes.
Well, hold on, one at a time. You guys still can't spell my name right. In the header,
Oh, in the,
yeah,
oh, sorry,
Distribution.
Terry.
Who was
yeah.
there?
Oh, yeah.
Feelings are hurt. And there is page 2 of the August 9th, Grimmin Schaefer recuses himself.
Oh, it's
I have
more
multiple
than,
personalities, but in this case, it should be themselves.
Them.
And that may be it.
okay,
I didn't notice anything.
that's easy.
So do we have a motion on one at a time?
Is that
Well,
what
do you want to just move to accept all of them with
If
the-
you want to. it's
Yeah.
up-
I move to accept all of the minutes as presented with the,
Clerical errors.
sorry,
With the clerical errors corrected?
with the clerical errors corrected.
Second.
Any discussion?
Heck no.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Annie, give us your update.
It will be brief. There are new draft wetland protection regulations out right now. It's like the first time they've updated them in like 20 years or something like that. A lot of notable changes are within the stormwater regs, but there are changes to ours as well. Most of it's focused on coastal stuff, but we are impacted by coastal stuff because of the Merrimack. They extend the comment period, so they are now, final comments are due April 30th. You can find that on the DEP website. I'm working my way through them now.
April 30th?
Correct, yep.
Could you send us a link,
Sure,
just to make our lives a little easier?
yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
And then Nisha, the Assistant Director from the Council on Aging, reached out today. They are looking to do a Earth Day, like presentation type thing for the Council on Aging. And she asked Mike and I if we knew anyone who'd be interested in doing a type of presentation about the environment / climate change. She's looking, it can be anything, kind of. But she's looking for folks. I had thought of Diane Plantamera talking about her reforestation project up at
Yeah.
VZ. So I didn't know if anyone else might be interested or if anyone else knew anyone.
Are they planning that for April 23rd?
They have a few possible dates, including April 16th, April 17th, April 29th, and April 30th.
Just not Earth Day.
Just not actually Earth Day.
I don't know when, is it,
It's always April 23rd.
no, I thought it was 21st.
No.
No, 23rd. Tuesdays, they might have their movie day Tuesdays. They have lots of stuff going on. But, so if anyone's interested, let me know. They're looking to have a date solidified Friday, which I know is really last minute. I only got this email today, but let me know. I'm gonna reach out to Diane and see if she, would want to do anything like that. So that is all I have.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we could talk about what we're doing about trees, you know, like tonight, somebody came before us, they have a problem with 20 trees and what we're doing about it to, you know, we're not just letting people cut down trees willy-nilly, you know. And we have the big project going on, Diane, up at VZ Park. We're also, you know, have a CPA money to clear out and plant some more trees along Washington Street at the bottom of VZ Park. So, and we're pursuing Arbor Day, Tree City USA for Groveland. So we've got a lot, you know, I think we could easily spend, you know, 45 minutes or so speaking about all these efforts. Trees.
Trees.
Open discussion.
Was a good job.
Any other open discussion item?
Just going to ask Annie, are you possibly going to the MAC conference, or?
I think I have a wedding that day, or I have something going on
Get
that,
married?
no, no.
I thought you would at least
My
know
wedding.
what day.
I think I have my
Imagine.
wedding that
I
day.
remember seeing them, I remember looking at the date and
Yeah.
saying, dang, that's too bad. I can't
Okay.
remember what it was
Are you going?
about, though.
What's the
I
date?
toy with it, but then I go,
It's like
To the one in
March,
the
the second weekend in March or something.
yeah.
I didn't
yeah,
even
I
look
think
at
so.
Their
Is it March
annual
2nd?
conference is.
March 2nd, is it?
I don't know where that is.
Yeah, it is March 2nd. I am
no,
going to be
holy.
in Stowe, Vermont. Not a wedding,
Okay.
I'm working
but
that
still,
day.
I'll be away, unfortunately.
It's worthwhile going.
Yeah.
It's a good meeting.
Yeah.
I was wondering if anybody's monitoring, like, how does this work with the gas tanks going in at,
Oh, yeah.
Grovenato?
Yeah, so that's not going well. So far, everything, they should be outside of our jurisdiction. The tanks were always supposed to be outside of our jurisdiction. That was, I wasn't here when it was permitted, but my understanding was that was kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, they're further back on that property than I thought.
it's
Yes.
literally,
So we're working on it. To make a long story short, they were supposed to get peer review engineered by the planning board. They kind of jumped the gun on construction. They hadn't pulled a building permit yet. They're having issues with the Board of
No.
Health.
Surprising. with-
They're having issues with the Board of Health as far as where they are digging. They might be in their leach reserve area. We're
they get a
working
cease and
on it.
desist order, like my favorite New Mexican restaurant?
Yes, they also haven't pulled a single building permit either, so they are not doing what they're supposed to be either, so.
I know.
But they also don't have a permit with the state fire marshal, to the best of my understanding. So there's a plethora of issues, and myself, the town administrator, the building commissioner, the Board of Health agent are all aware and are actively.
Because we hadn't talked about it at,
We don't have any, right now.
that area is not within that particular area?
So,
We checked?
right now,
They had a permit from us to do what they
I
did.
just want to make sure it was in the right spot.
yeah,
'cause
so
she's saying it was-
right now, the Board of Health has someone, I can't remember who off the top of my head, out there taking a look at where they're digging specifically. A surveyor's going out and pulling all the points to make sure they are where they are supposed to be.
Okay.
So once we get that plan, I will know for sure where they are digging and whether or not it becomes our problem.
Okay, because it looks awfully darn close.
It
Yeah.
is, but
So,
it's,
so if it's where it's supposed to be, then
Okay.
it's not a Concom issue, it's just like an everyone else issue. So,
Thank you, Annie.
we'll see.
Annie's
It's-
all over it.
Yeah, it's not
And
fun.
we appreciate you.
It sucks. I hate having to do stuff like that, but.
okay. Other items not reasonably anticipated at time of posting. I do have one thing. Yesterday got a letter from Beaver Solutions regarding the beaver deceiver that's over there at Lower Center Street. I think we put it in about 10 years ago, and we've been paying the maintenance fee on that every year to keep it cleaned and flowing, and it's worked quite well between the small pond and Johnson's Pond underneath Center Street there. So it's kind of reached its lifetime, and they are suggesting that we replace some of the worn out parts of it, and they've given us some credits for parts that they can reuse, and then adding another annual maintenance plan to it when they come and maintain it twice a year. So the bill for that would come to $1890.
18,000?
$1,890.
Okay, good.
And,
And that's for how long?
well, that's to rebuild, most of the cost of that is rebuilding the device. The maintenance is only like $400. So, I checked with Annie, and we do have the funds in the expenses account, which I don't think we've got anything on the horizon that has to be paid for. And so this will be another way to wisely use some of the expense money. We got a extra expense money because of just a weird thing of the changeover from conservation to the Economic Development Planning and Conservation Department. And so we had more expense money to spend this year than we typically do, far more. And so,
I thought we were gonna get t-shirts.
well, we might be able to, but anyway.
So does that need a motion or something?
Yeah,
All right, well, move to appropriate that money from our expenses to use for the upkeep of the beaver deceiver.
Seconded.
any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Sounds very reasonable.
Yes, please.
Move to adjourn.
Next meeting, March 13th, and
Second.
we've got, what are we here, 2 hours and 20 minutes, one of the longer meetings, but, with our presentation there, I think it was time well spent. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Tell us when the camera.